everyone always points to this. Here's that commission. Here's that 3% that I'm paying you out of my equity. What did you get charged when you bought that house? Do you think the loan officer works for free? You think the title company just did your title work for free? That's the problem is realtors get the majority of the hate.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh, and join us on this very special edition of The Closing Table. We are welcoming Shawn McNeil, familiar face. What's going on, Shawn?
It's going good, man. It's a rainy, beautiful day out.
Yeah, and it's raining elsewhere in the world too, in the real estate industry.
Yes, it
for
is.
lack of better terms.
Yes, it is.
But we will get into that right now. So, this is a special edition episode, right? We are here to talk about the huge lawsuit that's going on, Burnett versus the NAR, National Association of Realtors. So I want to first and foremost break down both of our perspectives on it, and then we want to get into some of your thoughts on some of the subjects. So I guess what I'll start off with saying, from what I've read and what I've gathered, all the information, essentially, there's a few different things that the National Association of Realtors is being accused of. They're going under trial right now, and I think the jury has come up with a resolution, but we're still waiting on the judge. But if I'm not mistaken, as of right now, there's a few different things within the NAR's guidelines and practices that are under scrutiny. One of them being the commission concealment rules, which basically saying that a lot of agents or brokers within the NAR were hiding the commission that they will get from certain purchases and transactions. The free service rule, which has them promoting that the buyers of a real estate transaction does not have to pay any commission fees or any service fees, I should say. Commission filter rules and practices, which is under scrutiny, basically saying that agents would go under the listings in the MLS and they will filter them out if they feel like they wouldn't make enough commission. And then lastly, the lockbox policy saying that only members and realtors of the NAR will have access to certain lockboxes of certain homes. Overall, to me as a consumer, this is just another big story of more fraudulent activities, deceptive practices, and predatory practices also. And I'm shocked but not surprised, Shawn. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so this essentially breaks down into, to my understanding, the best of my understanding, two categories. Number one is, why are sellers paying a buyer's agent commission, right? If you go get into any litigation, I'm going to use divorce as an example. Would you, as a divorcee, use your significant other's divorce attorney to get your divorce? No, you'd go hire your own, right? So that's kind of one half. The other half is these predatory practices in which you kind of mentioned, free services. The big component of this seems to be the training, that a lot of the bigger companies were using certain training methods in order to inflate commissions to make sure that they always get between 5 to 6% commissions. And there was a lot of sellers unhappy, hence the class action lawsuit.
Yes. Well said. So it's a lot to consume. It's a lot going on, and it's still going on right now. Like I said, if I'm not mistaken, the trial took place in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yep.
It was 8 people in the jury, and they basically came to the decision that the National Association of Realtors is being held liable for these damages in the amount of $1.8 billion, just under $1.8 billion, by the way.
Correct. Yep.
So this is huge.
So then
and I want to get into a few things. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So on top of that too, it's not just that. The second that the guilty verdict was found, that attorney went around and immediately filed another lawsuit. So I mean, this is it's not going to stop. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but the second, the minute that the guilty verdict was found, paperwork got filed. I mean, I'm sure it's like a legal assistant or something like that when filed it. But yeah, the second that guilty verdict was found, they turned around and filed another lawsuit. So they're thinking damages could end up being somewhere close to $5 billion.
I saw that also. Yes, because of the situation. That makes it a very, very scary situation. And this could change the landscape of real estate and how we all buy and sell homes altogether. So you being the head of your brokerage, being an active agent yourself, I have to approach you from a few different perspectives, Shawn, and it's all out of respect, sir. But I definitely want to start off by asking if all agents who are members of the National Association of Realtors are part of this investigation. How do we know you or maybe your agents aren't a suspect of these deceptive practices?
So that's a really good question. So essentially, no, we are not all part of this. This ranged from a certain time. So essentially, I wasn't even a brokerage at the time that this was going on, that these suits are filed. So no, I wouldn't be a part of it. This is really designated down to a specific area in the United States. There's quite a few MLSs that were listed. I think even one of the Detroit MLSs was on that. But it's like McDonald's, right? McDonald's gets sued every single day. That doesn't mean that their employees are bad and they just get sued, right? So it basically boils down to that. You know, they were named in a lawsuit. A lot of companies were. That doesn't mean that their agents are bad. That doesn't mean anything's bad. It just means that they got sued and they lost. That's all that means, you know. And there were quite a few companies that did choose to settle. We don't know the exact details, to my knowledge, at this point of those settlements too. But yeah, there were a few companies that did choose to settle out of court as well. And again, it doesn't mean anyone's bad. It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm a part of it. You know, it just means that an association that I'm a part of got sued. That's all that means.
Right. And I wanted to state that question from the perspective of a consumer, but also I wanted to give you that opportunity to clear it up, because as this is starting to pick up traction and also starting to go viral on social media, people from the consumer side are starting to see this story.
Correct.
And if they are in a position to buy and or sell, they may have a certain feeling towards agents nowadays. So I think it's important that you cleared that up. It's a certain area, it's a certain time period, it's certain agents, but it doesn't necessarily, or it doesn't at all affect you or your agent. So thank you for clarifying that. But we also have to talk. I like the perspective. I like how you put it in the case or the analogy of McDonald's. McDonald's may get sued from for anything in Iowa or something like that. That doesn't mean the franchises or the stores in Michigan or the employees there are just as deceptive or, you know, are a cause of that same thing. But with that being said, nonetheless, NAR is just an organization. The
Correct.
agents themselves are the ones that are out in the field in the brokerage. So who holds the most responsibility from this overall practice? Who do you feel like is most responsible for putting this into place?
So I would say, number one, probably it depends on what you're looking at. So as a brokerage owner, I hold the liability, right? Now, the problem that I'm having currently with NAR is dictating how I run my brokerage. So if I get in trouble because of a NAR policy that I'm supposed to follow, is that my fault as an owner? I don't know. That would be, you know, that's a question for my attorney, but that's kind of where we're at, right? So like I hold the liability, but I'm in a sandbox and I have to abide by these rules, whether I agree with them or not. I have to abide by these set of rules. Now, there are certain ways around said rules, you know, and we deal with that all the time, and I deal with that all the time. I don't agree with all of the rules that they have. They've taken, I think we've gone from when I got in, you know, even in the last, let's say since COVID, right? Because I got in way before COVID, but let's just talk about COVID. The market has changed in like twice, right? First, appreciation went through the roof, interest rates went way down, and now we're seeing the direct opposite of that. Interest rates are through the roof, and now there's not a whole lot of competition. But however, in some areas, you know, there still is, but neither here nor there. So we've seen two direct changes, but how has that organization changed anything? I would say that they really haven't, besides making it what we saw during like COVID was an even playing field. So meaning that they want competition gone and they want every agent to have a chance to get their buyer into a home. Well, sure, maybe that's good for the buyers, right? Maybe that's good for the buyers. Does that always mean that it's good for the seller? No, not necessarily. If I have two sellers right now going through a divorce and they're embarrassed and they want to use a real estate agent because the judge is most likely dictated that they use a real estate agent. That's typically what happens, or their attorneys dictate that they use a real estate agent. And they say, hey, we are super embarrassed. We kind of just want to keep this off the books. We don't want it. We don't want to blast it on Zillow, let everyone know. We haven't told anyone yet. Our families don't know. As a real estate agent, with the rules that are dictated to me by NAR, there is nothing I can do for that couple. Sure, I can take a listing and call it a brokerage listing, but I can't market it. I can't text agents outside of my brokerage about it. Like, there's nothing essentially that I can do. I'm bound again by this play box on how to run my business. And I don't think that that's okay. No, they have good rules. I'm not going to knock that. But if it's too even of a playing field, that's not fair either.
Ooh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. So you stated multiple times that these are rules and guidelines that you have to follow as a member of the NAR.
Correct. Yep.
But from my understanding, you can be a real estate agent. You can have your license, but you don't necessarily have to be a part of the National Association of Realtors. So basically, just because you're a realtor doesn't mean you're part of NAR. So you have to make the decision to be a part of NAR and accept their guidelines and rules. With that being said, what are the benefits to you joining NAR, or anyone else for that matter, any other agents?
Yeah, so that's a good question. What is the benefit? I get to use the realtor title. I don't know. I'm looking at it from a landscape of what is my direct benefit. Sure, they offer like pretty good training and continuing education, and like we're all hold to, quote unquote, to a code of ethics. But like, if you need a piece of paper saying to be ethical, like, are you going to be ethical anyways? I would argue probably not. So, I mean, right. I think I speak for a lot of people, not just for myself. And I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, what's the benefit of NAR? What's the benefit? I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know. It used to be. So now the only benefit of NAR as it speaks right now in my area is, in order to be a part of the local MLSs and to get our listings out there and syndicated to all the websites, is you have to be a member of NAR. So
interesting.
You were talking about that lockbox earlier of like, you have to join this organization to be a part of other organizations. Again, even playing field, that's not necessarily fair either, because if I'm a real estate agent, but I have to be a part of this organization in order to join this organization, like at what point are we just going in circles and that's becoming like an antitrust violation?
Correct.
So that's the main issue that I have right now. Is I don't feel it's fair. Now, the other part of this too is that, so you got to think of it like in terms of big government, right? So you've got your federal government, which is NAR, and then you got your local boards.
So glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Please. So then you got your local boards and they can kind of run and dictate things how that they want to, and they can impose more rules that are focused on the area. Now, the problem that I have with those local boards is they don't necessarily have to what's called data share. So meaning I as a brokerage owner, I'm a part of now like 5 or 6 different boards. So it's 5 or 6 different fees that I have to pay. Just in most areas, there's one board and it covers like a huge area. Where I'm at, which is kind of like a little bit of a smaller town per se, just in my area, there's 4 different boards. If you go 40 minutes 40 minutes west, that's a 5th board. You go like an hour west, that's a 6th board. Okay. You start to hit down into Lansing, that's a 7th board. So it's like, and these, like to perspective to people that are listening, like we're talking an hour, right? So I've got area agents that are spread out. Well, now I have to be a part of this board because this board doesn't communicate with this board. So I've got to rack up the fees that I pay every day, which is fine, pay to play, I get it. But how is that good for the consumer? Right? If I'm a part of this board and I want to list a house here, well, this house here borders this area, so maybe the people in this area aren't necessarily going to see it. The other consumers, the buyers. So now I've got to go and run over to this board and put it on this board. We're outboarding ourselves, and we're reeling ourselves out of an industry is what basically what I'm trying to say here, which isn't necessarily good.
Too much red tape. Correct. Yeah, too many catch-22s, red tape, and it just sounds so confusing for no reason. But nonetheless, I get it. It's money. Everybody,
Yes.
for the most part, most organizations, it's about money. It's about money, which definitely makes things very, very muddy and blurs lines. So I want to get on the other side of that then. You spoke on it briefly, but let's get into it. Are there any disadvantages to being a member of NAR?
The rules, and now we're a part of an organization that's being not only sued. So there's another thing going on that they're doing a very good job of not talking about. There's sexual harassment allegations going on at NAR too.
Oh wow.
So it's not just
Okay.
one thing that's going on. There's multiple things, but yet the people that are accused of these sexual, and I don't know if it's true. I'm innocent until proven guilty or whatever. But
they're just allegations.
It doesn't
correct.
matter. It's a piece of hay, and at some point there's a straw that breaks the camel's back, and you've got multiple eyes from multiple facets looking at us. They're looking at us like saying like, oh, these guys are supposed to be ethical, but yet here's another sexual harassment allegation, or these guys are supposed to benefit the consumer, but yet they just got a guilty verdict in Missouri. So, I mean, as far as I think the question was, what's the benefit? Yeah, I mean, there's
a disadvantage more than anything. What was that? But I get it. You're guilty by association in a way.
Correct. So, and they're not doing a good job of putting out that to the public and saying like, hey, here's our statements. Here's what's going on. Here's why, we're true. They're just kind of doubling down on the we're innocent. Well, it's like you guys aren't innocent anymore. You're proven guilty. You're not.
Yeah.
Whether you appeal or not, it doesn't matter. If I go and I rob somebody and I'm found guilty, yeah, you could appeal it, but you're still guilty. You're now not innocent anymore. You're guilty now. So I think we're not. And then now the CEO has stepped down of NAR. There is a lot going on in our industry right now that just is like a blind eye or a black eye in the industry.
Yeah, no, I get it, and it's looking bad. Like you said, the agents for the most part, they have no control over this. This was them following certain guidelines. This was them implementing practices and different training that has been going on for a while and has been taught by the biggest trade organization amongst realtors. So it just looks bad, even though you may have nothing to do with it whatsoever, but. In the core of a lot of this, like we discussed before, it's money. It's greed, if you ask me personally. But getting back on the consumer side of things, if with the news of this spreading more and it reached the average consumer on social media, now everyone is seeing the news of, hey, I might have overpaid for my home, or I might have overpaid my agent to sell my home. So how can agents or brokers regain the trust of consumers through all of this news?
Well, I think that, again, it comes down to education. So for us, these are real conversations that we're having every single day here. These are real agent concerns that are brought to my attention every single day. So, I don't think I'm the outlier on my views on this. I do think that I'll get hate for it, but I'm just expressing the questions that are asked to me every single day, right? Like, I own a brokerage. We're pretty big. We're pretty successful. We're about to be a multi-state brokerage. Like, these are questions I get asked every single day. So, education and beating home like, hey, like, there's a value here. Do a better job of explaining your paperwork so that people understand it. The days of sign right here and just sliding the document over and making them sign it, like, why would you do that? If they understood and they saw the value, they would never have a problem with it. I don't like cleaning my house. I don't care what my house cleaner charges me every single week. If I walk in and the home is perfectly spotless and it's out of sight, out of mind, and I never have to do it, I don't care. Charge me whatever, obviously within reason. But the point is, like, if she charged me $100 a week and I walk in and the house is just spotless and it smells good that entire week, it probably takes a really high number in order for me to actively think about that every single day. Like, so something has happened. There's been a shift, and that shift is that all of a sudden it became easy to sell your house. Well, sure, but that's one point in time, right? That was COVID. But not only COVID, but you've got to look at, it took 21 years to get there, right? Like it took a 15-year war in Afghanistan. It took multiple global pandemics. It took a COVID shutdown to get like a world global pandemic to get our industry down to those rates to make it easier to sell your home. But on the flip side of that, what people don't understand and what we're trying to do differently here is basically like, hey, here's really our job and what we're really doing. Because I think that people think that we just go open a door, and that's not the case, right? Like we are honestly, I would say we're connectors. In this industry, we're connectors and we're babysitters. Yeah, I will open the door and I do some documents for you, but ultimately my job is to make sure everyone else is doing their job, right? Because if your lender's not doing their job, it's bad. If title hasn't had the correct documents done, it's bad. If your home inspector is not there and not doing a good job, it's bad. If the appraiser is not doing a good job, that's bad. Like, so there's multiple facets, and you're asking consumers to go and navigate that. Sure, you're going to have people that are for sale by owners that are going to do it. And you're going to have people on both sides of the aisle, sell and buy, that are going to tell you, hey, I don't want to work with a real estate agent. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, by all means. But you got to understand too that if you've got a seller saying, I don't want real estate agents, when a real estate agent represents you, you can't be upset when that goes wrong. Or you are in the same boat.
100%.
You're in the same boat. So like if there's this class action lawsuit going against NAR, well, why isn't there one against for sale by owners where someone wasn't represented? You know what I mean? There should be two sides to this, and there's not. And that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, essentially, you went and you bought something unrepresented. Why would you do that? You walk in the same way you walk into a car dealership and you go in there and you talk to one person. What do? Inflate that price. There's no negotiating. Yes. You know, maybe you're good because you've bought a few cars, right, in your life. Like I can walk in and buy a car. And for me, it's the convenience, you know, and it's like when I bought my last vehicle, you know, I bought my Tesla. Like for me, it was the convenience factor of like, I don't got to talk to a salesman. Here's my money. Here we go. There's no price negotiation with Tesla. But again, you know, there's not that barrier. So if you make it easy for everybody and they know what you're doing and why you're doing it, no one complains. And so I feel like the last couple of years we've gotten away from that education piece, and it just became easy. Because what happens if, as a listing agent, what happens if something stupid happens, right? Well, we just move on to the next offer. And if that one falls through, it's the next one, we still close fast. It still goes for over asking. People are still going to waive inspections. People are still going to have instant regret the second that ink dries. But yet the deal moves forward. So, I mean, there's a lot. Just got to be better. We got to get better at educating the public. And I think a lot of those advertising dollars have gone away, because you used to see realtor advertisements all the time, right? Like you wouldn't want to work with someone that's not a realtor. Where'd those go? You know, so just education. Why? I mean, these are things that we could do that they could be doing as an organization for us, and saying like, hey, like we don't expect you to go make your own educational video. Here's one we made and you can give it. It's consumer friendly. Here's one that we made. Why isn't that a thing? And here's the crazy part. Maybe it is a thing and I just don't know. And if I don't know, then who else doesn't know? You know what I mean? So there's that part of it too.
Good point. I love that. You hit on a bunch of, I want to speak on that education part from two different perspectives, man. So it's a little bit of pushback in the first one because, well, not the first one. How about this? From an agent's perspective, let's say I'm an agent, right? I'm part of your team. I just joined. I've been here for about a year. I only know, and I don't even want to say yours, but I just joined the brokerage. I only know what I've been taught. I only know the education that's been presented to me in this industry specifically, right? So if I go into a brokerage and they are teaching me, hey, we're telling buyers they don't have to pay any fees. Hey, when you go into the MLS, you know, you want to look for stuff that's priced this, so you can make sure you hit your quota with your commission and blah, blah, blah. As a new agent, I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm thinking this is the education. This is how 100%. It works. 100%. But I think that's the downfall. I mean, you can't blame the agent for that though, right? Because they're new to the system. They're being taught that. So that's I just wanted to speak on that briefly because that's the side that I have to stand with the agent on, because not all agents are privy to. They're just a victim of their environment, or they're a product of their environment or the system that they're taught in, essentially. So, but then on the other side of the education, this is where the pushback comes back a little, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that as a consumer myself, I only know what I know. I don't know the things that I don't know. I don't know.
Correct.
For an example, with this situation, a lot of people were in buying positions, did not know that they could negotiate the buyer broker's commission. They didn't necessarily know that. It doesn't have to be a standard, whatever the case. They can ask for buyer rebates. They can ask for negotiate to get it lower the case. But a lot of people don't know that.
Correct.
So is it the agent's responsibility to tell them, hey, you can actually negotiate this, or I can understand them protecting their own income and saying, not presenting it at all. So I understand the education part of it, but then it's that slippery slope. Like, why would I tell them they could negotiate my price going down? That doesn't make sense to me as an agent.
So it's a great point. I love that point. Here's why I love that point. And here's where I think NAR is missing the ball on this. That's a state law, right? I can't fix commission because that's an antitrust violation. Okay. So this is a part of it. Why was the state licensing requirements not brought up in that trial? Why was NAR not hammering down and saying, if this is the case, and every agent goes through the same licensing requirements, it varies state by state, but let's be honest, it's pretty weak.
Correct.
Right? So why didn't NAR sit there and annihilate that point? And because if that's the case, right, and consumers don't know, because and especially like state of Michigan, right, like and Florida, commissions are negotiable, right? But that that you learn that in your state requirements. That's maybe a 30-second conversation that you have. So if it's that big of a deal that consumers know that, that's not an NAR thing, that's a state thing. That's a state licensing thing. So why did no one bring that up in the trial? And they could have. I don't know. I don't exactly know what went on at the trial. No one does.
Right.
Which is another kind of issue that I'm having. Like, I think we deserve to know a little bit better. I deserve to know what my dues paid for, like as far as lawyer fees, stuff like that. It's a nonprofit organization, and so like I deserve to know, and we don't. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, like they didn't hammer down on the state licensing requirements, and I would have loved to have seen that. That's what I would have done. And clearly, they didn't hire Harvey Specter. But I mean, I think there's so many things that could have been deferred in that lawsuit that weren't, because you're right? I mean, you brought up a good point. I'm a consumer. I have no idea. Well, that's not NAR's fault. That's the individual agent's fault that wasn't taught better. Correct. And that goes back to the state licensing requirements. So if that's that big of a deal, and this is a part of it, that should be more of a thing on the state licensing requirements.
Yeah, man, this is, it just like we said, this is literally only the beginning. And we're already talking about numbers that are crazy. The jury of 8 in Kansas City, Missouri found NAR liable for $1.78 billion in damages. This is so far, like we said, because it could stretch up to as much as $5 billion. Do you think this ruling so far, that amount, is fair?
I don't know. I don't know if it's fair or not. I wasn't in like I mentioned, I have no idea what went on at that trial. I don't know the numbers behind it. I don't know what's fair. It could be unfair. It could be fair. I have no idea. There's the problem is that the spokesperson for NAR that put out the statement, it was just I'll be honest, a complete bullshit statement. It was, listen, we believe we're going to win this on appeal. Well, it's like, banking a lot on appeal,
Of course they'll say that.
Which anyone's going to bank on appeal. I totally understand that. But ultimately, I felt it's hard to find answers because your mainstream media is going to be doom and gloom. They're going to have their version. NAR's going to have their version. They're somewhere in the middle. I haven't seen numbers. I don't know why it would be up to $1.78 billion. In my opinion, the best thing going forward would have been, like, the best verdict would have been saying, like, hey, this is how we did it up to this point. From this point forward, we're no longer doing it that way. Because if you're awarding plaintiffs $1.78 billion, well, what about all of the, like, there's two sides to it, right? So if sellers had to pay that. Well, that means the buyers received a benefit. So do the buyers have to pay any of that benefit back? Why is it just NAR? But no one's talking about that either.
Good point.
So again, I just feel like they're not doing a great job right now, and whoever they hired is just the world's most god awful lawyer, because I feel like there were so many things that could have been hammered down on, and so much press that could have been put out. And I think the best thing that could have happened was the jury saying, like, yep, this is you're guilty, you're wrong. Here's some damages, but ultimately, it's not because of this, and this, which they got charged. I think the actual charge was conspiracy to inflate realtor commissions or something like that, which comes down to training, which in my opinion, that's kind of BS, hard to prove. What they should have done ultimately was said, hey,
I know
it's wrong. Here's what we got to do going forward, because there's still nothing going forward. Even if the judge comes back and says, you know what, I'm actually gonna, I think they said that he could come back and say, I'm gonna go up to $5 billion in damages, not 1.78. I think that's one of the articles I read. But there's still no path going forward, because if there's no clear path, how do we not fall back into the same trap? So if this is truly bad, like truly bad for an industry, right? Like the second something goes bad in any other industry, there's a law, and boom, federal law, this is how it's going, how it is going forward. Or boom, here's a state law, this is how it is going forward. I don't see any of that playing out right now, and that's a problem too.
Right. I read something on the Department of Justice website. I believe one of the part of the settlement would be that they immediately change or just stop those specific practices, the ones that I named earlier. And I believe for about, I think they said 7 years. I don't want to misquote that. I'll probably put the link in the description of this video if we're able to. But 7 years is just crazy to me. Only 7 years, if that's true.
So NAR has already worked with the Department of Justice to fix all of the things that the Department of Justice wanted fixed. So that end of it, that happened, I think, like 2 years ago. They worked that out, and they came to an agreement on things going forward.
Perfect.
I did not know about the 7 years portion of it. That's a little mind blowing to me. I don't know why it would only be 7 years, but maybe you go to a table and you're willing to negotiate with the Department of Justice. I'm sure that whoever they hired for that was a smarter person than I am, and 7 years was the magic number.
Of course, me too. Me too, of course. So, with that being said, I feel like the root of this, like I mentioned before, it comes down to money.
Yes.
So with that being said, the agents and the brokers, they benefited monetarily from this. And I mean, if we want to reach up our the NAR from the fees and dues, but nonetheless, do you feel like realtors are paid enough for the work that they do?
I feel like I'm paid enough for the work that I do. As far as an industry, I feel like, yes, as an industry, yes, we are paid perfectly. I think it's good. We deal with a lot of stress. Everyone gets their piece of the pie. So I mean, again, going back to fixing the actual problem, I just joined a board yesterday. For me as a broker to join that board was over $1,200. For an everyday agent to join that board, it's over $1,000. So your barrier in your cost barrier into the industry is high. Your education barrier is so low. Why? That's a big part of it. So yeah, I feel like I'm compensated fairly. I really do. The problem that I have with compensation is that I own a brokerage. I'm a broker. I've gone through extensive classes. I've got to pay attorneys. I've got to pay this, that, and the other, right? But if I go sell a house, right? I go and sell a house, and I charge 6% commission. The consensus is that in the industry, I get 3, the other person gets 3. And maybe I negotiate a little bit higher because maybe I'm doing some more things. But as per this lawsuit, right? I'm gonna say that per this lawsuit, 3 and 3. Let's say that person on the other end of that deal is day one on the job. Why are they making as much money as I am? That's the problem that I have. We often compare ourselves to lawyers. So if we truly are like that, which we're not, lawyers go 7 years worth of education. They're very smart people. I pay my attorney $415 an hour. He raised it $5 an hour on me. $415 an hour. But but he is like super high up. He's a smart guy, very cool, very chill guy. He's worth every penny of that. But there's a lawyer down the street that's probably not worth $410. Maybe they're worth $99 an hour. But imagine every lawyer came in the industry and charged $410 an hour.
Right.
Okay, that's a problem. I disagree with that. I don't like that. There's a lot of, but also too, a lot of blame gets pointed at realtors, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So everyone always points to this. Here's that commission line. Here's that 3% that I'm paying you out of my equity. Okay, I agree. What did you get charged when you bought that house? Do you think the loan officer works for free? You think the title company just did your title work for free? But because we're like a little bit bigger of a number, the problem is that's the problem is realtors get the majority of the hate, right? Your loan officer makes money, your title company makes money. Your home inspector, they don't care if the deal closes or not. And so if you want to talk about a messed up industry, look at the state. Look at the state of Michigan.
That's a fact.
In the state of Michigan, to be a home inspector, there is 0 licensing requirements. I can go start an LLC tomorrow.
Let's go.
And say I want to be a home inspector. But because it's $300 and not 3%, that's an okay problem. You know, like and there's a lot of people in the deal that look like heroes, right? Well, the appraiser got the home value low, so he's a hero. Is he though? Because what he just did was he just took, like, we have one in my area. We have a VA appraiser that purposefully, which we can't even prove it, and that's a whole other talk, but has purposely said that he will always undervalue any vet's home because he wants to help the veteran buyer. Or any seller's home because he wants to.
Wow.
So how is that fair? But because he looks like the hero, right? So if you're paying $450 for a home inspector, and that home inspector who's got 0 education tells you as a consumer, don't buy this house. It's a bad house. What are you going to say? Are you going to say you're an idiot or you get paid too much? No, you're going to say thank you. You just saved me from buying a home. And I do that. I've done this for a long time. I flip homes and I do this, and I do construction projects, do fix and flips. I pretty much at this point, I'm not a home inspector, but you know, in the real estate industry, we're always said that, like, you're always told, like, don't wear 2 hats. So I've got to walk behind this person who's getting paid up front. By the way, they get paid up front. We don't. I get paid at the closing table. So I can watch this person go through and kill this deal over nothing. Go to the next house, charge them again, kill that deal. Get to the third house, and they're like, you know what? Hey, this is my third house. Let me give you a little bit of a discount this time. I feel bad that you're on this journey. Give me a little bit of a discount, but they look like heroes. I watch that time and time and time and time again. So, I mean, are we without sin? Absolutely not. We're in any industry is not without sin, but we only ever look at the realtor problem, and I think that's a problem with the industry too.
That is super solid, Shawn. Because to add on to that, that's like getting mad at the cashier at McDonald's for the policy that the actual franchise puts in place. They have no control over that. They're just the face that you have to interact with your transaction. So I get that. I love that perspective that you brought with that, by the way, because there's so many different missing pieces and people involved and people getting money. I mean, a lender is probably making the most money off of it, but you're not necessarily worried about them. You're worried about the person that's brokering the deal and showing you the house and the person that you're talking to on a frequent basis.
We're the lead singer of the band, right? That's the best. That's the best.
You are the Justin Timberlake of this transaction. Yeah.
Do people? So if I'm the Justin Timberlake, do people show up for the drum guy? No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Do they show up for the keyboard guy? No, absolutely not. But who do they blame when the drum guy's drums, you can't hear him? Justin Timberlake. Who do they blame when
the main guy.
When sound's off? Do they blame the sound guy? Now, Justin might get up there and say, hey, our sound guy just, He's having an off day. I'm sorry. And everyone's sitting there like, I paid $1,000 for this ticket, and you, Justin Timberlake, the face of the band, can't give me a good show.
Yep.
It's the same in the real estate industry.
That's a fact.
It's you as the realtor, the only person realistically we see, right? Because I talk to title, the consumer doesn't talk to title. I talk to title. They see the closing officer for 1 hour in the transaction. I've gone with them to multiple showings. I've talked to them weeks on weeks, probably 30 days. I'm stuck with that person for 30 straight days. Though the loan officer takes the application, passes it to a processor. They'll talk to the processor. They're mad at the processor because the processor is asking them for a bunch of docs. They call me up and they say, I hate this loan officer. I hate this processor. I'm like, I don't know why you're complaining to me. You picked them. Like, you're the one that picked this person. Like, why are you complaining to me?
Right.
You know, but me. It's the realtor every time. And we're the face of the band. And I think that's why we're an easy target too. I think we need to do a better job of not being the face of the band sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, for those small rare situations out there where there is bad practices being taken into effect by certain agents, I want to speak on that because I want you to speak on this perspective. NAR's commission filter rules and practices basically gave agents gave them the power to be selective with the properties that they show buyers in the MLS. So what should be done to ensure that buyers see all homes available within their criteria and basically know that they aren't being shown selective properties?
So this is it. So I love this question. The reason being is because reading that article, you're probably sitting there as a consumer thinking, holy shit, a house probably was offering $500 commission, and maybe it could have been the perfect home, and maybe my real estate agent didn't show it to me, right? It's a great question. Here's the problem. You come to me day one and you say, Shawn, I want to buy a house with you. I say, that's great. I'm going to go over my contract with you, and I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to give you 100% of myself. I'm going to negotiate on your behalf. I'm going to make this as easy as humanly possible for you to buy a home. You say, great. I go through it and I say, listen, I want to be compensated 3% commission of the sales price of your home. Do you believe that I'm owed 3%? You say, yes. I say, great. Go through it. You sign. If I show you, so now we can have one of two conversations. Well, one conversation. I say, hey, listen, some of these homes that you're going to see aren't offering 3%. I feel like I'm owed, and you agree that you feel like I'm owed 3%. And maybe you don't. Maybe it's 2.5. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 1. Maybe it's $500. I don't know. If I show you that home for $500, you put an offer in, and we've agreed to that in that contract, technically you owe me the difference.
Oh. Wow.
So that was the
I get it.
stupidest thing that they could have done, because what they did essentially is saying, yeah, we'll change the filters because we're stupid. But in all actuality, no, because the argument from the agents was, listen, no, it's not the case because it's a contract issue. This isn't a filtering issue, it's a contract issue. And here's the second part to that is there's the education piece that, so in our statement, they put in there, directly in there, all commissions are negotiable. Okay? It has to be, otherwise it's price fixing and it's an antitrust violation. What agents don't understand is, unless we'll take VA loans out of it, because VA loans is a little bit different because they can't pay any commissions, anything like that. They just can't. It's against the VA loan policies or VA policies. Correct. Every other loan type, right? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So every other loan type is essentially, what's the word I'm looking for here? Sorry, I'm like drawing a complete blank. I had it in my head, but now it's going away. Anyways, so it's a contract issue. So like they could have doubled down on that. They could have doubled down on the education piece. They chose not to, and it made them look bad when in all actuality, it's not that bad. And that's the problem that we have. All commissions are negotiable. Yeah, so sorry. So in terms of all commissions are negotiable, that also means you're like, I'm a listing agent. I'm offering you 3% to the buyer. What's the rule? All commissions are negotiable. It's not 3%. You can ask for 3.5. You can ask for 10. But a lot of the agents truly believe, and I've had so many, I know, and there's a lot of disagreement about this too. I believe my way is the right way. Others believe their way is the right way. Per NAR statement, all commissions are negotiable. All underline, bullet, italicize it, all commissions are negotiable. So there's an education problem with that too. They didn't say, hey, all commissions are negotiable, asterisk, read down here for the things. They said all commissions are negotiable.
Right.
So we have an education problem. Like it just comes back to education. And like, if you're offering me 3, I can ask for 3.5. The only thing I can't do is make the offer contingent upon me getting that 3% acceptance. If you read the rule, that's what it says. But here's the problem. If all commissions are negotiable and I ask for 4, what can you do? We're negotiating the commission now, right? You can tell me 1%. So what happens if it's a good offer and now you're saying, oh, 1%? I got to go to my client and be like, hey, they're offering me 1%. I wanted the 4. I tried. They're offering me 1. You can accept the terms, but you owe me the 2% difference.
Correct.
So when they did that, that was
that.
just so stupid. I can't believe that they did that. Again,
I can see
it seems like they're making a lot of just really bad choices that are making us look more worse than we are. And to the everyday consumer, it just, you're right. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Now saying that
Absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Now saying on the other side of that too, saying that we are free, we're not free. That should have never been a thing. The reason being is if you read our purchase agreement, right, or our contract, our buyer's contract, in there it states, you will pay me the commission. Okay, so there's like the credits and debits on the Alta statement, and this is how it's supposed to be. And it's not how it's done, but it's how it's supposed to be done. Credits and debits. It states that you are paying me 3%. So boom, hits the statement, right? You're going to get charged that 3%. Now you get a credit back of anything that listing agent pays me. So if I collect 3% from you, but you're getting a credit of the 3%, right? That's how it's supposed to be done. It's just not like the standard of how things are done, but it's how it's supposed to be done. So that if that's the thing, you're not free to me. You were never free to me if that's the contract. So I agree that they getting rid of that was a good thing. They should have never done that. Plus there's like other BS fees, but again, it's just constantly pointing at the realtor. So, but I agree that one was bad.
If I'm being honest real quick, this is what I thought about that. Like as I learned more about real estate and the transactions, as a consumer, I thought of it as, and I've spoken to many agents who speak on it, say, hey, as a buyer, you're looking for a home, you don't have to pay anything. And I always thought, well, technically I am. I'm buying this house, so I'm paying for everything. Technically. That's how I think. You know, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking if I'm the one who's writing, well, I'm going through the lender, but ultimately, once I get approved, I'm the one writing the big check. I'm paying for everybody, essentially. The seller may have certain things that they're negotiating and they're going to have to pay, but other than that, I'm paying for it. So I don't see how, as a buyer, I feel like I'm not paying for my broker. But this is what I thought of it. I said, okay, maybe it's a marketing ploy. Maybe it's one of those, hey, you don't have to pay for me as long as you do such and such. It's like one of those buy one, get one free. They make you feel like you're getting something for free, but you technically paid for it already. Yep. So is that a crazy thought? I don't, you have any thoughts on that whatsoever? That's just kind of how I thought of it.
It's a marketing ploy, right? So lenders have to abide by the Truth in Lending Act, right? Like they can't just say, they can't advertise certain trigger words, things like that. That should be, but that's a law, right? The Truth in Lending Act. It is a national law. They have to follow it.
Yes.
It's not like there's some governing body that's like, hey, if you do that, you're going to catch a $25 fine. It's a law. So if it's this big of a deal, but again, like what's the road to that, right? What's the path? What's the path to that? And there's not. So it like, if I'm saying like, hey, free, I mean, yeah, as a realtor, I can't do that as a part of as part of NAR. But if I'm a real estate agent, that's not a part of NAR, I can still say that.
There you go. See, that's something I don't think the average consumer knows. Average consumer thinks a real estate agent and a realtor are the same thing. And
Correct.
a realtor is technically someone who is part of NAR, correct?
Correct. Yes, exactly. Boom.
Absolutely.
We're learning here today.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
exactly.
hey, we moving.
So these are that bad of this bad of a thing, right? Why isn't a law?
Yeah.
Why isn't a law? You know, like that's again, it comes back to like I don't understand what went on in that courtroom to have lost this bad. I'm sure that like certain things, happened. I felt like they could have doubled down on a lot more other things. So like there's a lot of like pointing that could have gone on inside of that courtroom and said like, hey, this is bad. Why isn't it a national law?
I know. Couple last things I wanna inquire about before we get out of here, Shawn. Ultimately the ruling on it. And we don't know the official ruling, but from where it is now, where do you think this is gonna go? What do you think are going to be the long-term effects of what this ruling can be? Do you think buyers and sellers should pay their own broker fees? Why or why not? And just overall, what do you think is gonna happen? Please.
Yeah, so we're actually already starting to see changes. All the big box brokerages have come out and said, hey, we're not going to require any of our franchisors or franchisees to be a part of NAR. Okay. Good for them. Smart move. Here's the problem. They're big box. I'm a little independent business. I am technically, doesn't matter how good we do, I'm still a small business, especially in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just pull every agent off of NAR and say, hey, like I'm not requiring it anymore. How's that fair? So, but we are starting to see the changes. It is going to take them saying, hey, we're not requiring it anymore. I think some of the smaller brokerages are going to start to see some lawsuits. I know what they say. Like when I catch a fine, like if I catch a fine for something, right? We agreed to arbitrate. Well, so did all those sellers. So guess what that is? That's precedent. You have precedent to not arbitrate, to litigate. So I think there's going to be fallout from that. More people are going to get sued. I think that there's going to be a lot of smear campaigns. I think it's going to be a topic. I think this is going to become a political topic in the upcoming next year's election.
Yeah. Ooh, good point. Yep. Election year coming around the corner.
Yep. So, who's like, it's you got a lot of Americans out there that can't afford a home that have now been priced out. I mean, over like the last year, the amount of conversations that I have had with people that were approved and are no longer approved because of the rising interest rates is insane. So it's going to be a smear campaign. Crazy. Now, what's coming out of it and what we're seeing as changes, New York just changed their law. So if you in the state of New York, they are truly making all commissions negotiable, which is a good thing. So what's changed in New York is I no longer have to negotiate my commission with you as the listing agent. I go directly to the seller and I negotiate my commission with the seller. So if you've got think about it.
So yeah, we are starting to see some changes.
So if you think about it, you've got 10 offers on the table. You've got one really great offer that's at $180,000 and they want 6% commission because they're the greatest buyer's agent in the world. And you got one that's $178 and they want 1%. Which one are you going to take? $178, 1%. You're cool with that because you're making more money. There's a seller net sheet there, right? So things are going to change. It's going to be rocky. It's a black eye. I'm what we call a believer. I believe in what I do. I believe that I'm very well educated in actually helping people. Ultimately, I think it's going to create more competition eventually, and I think competition is needed now more than ever. We need competition.
For sure. Absolutely.
And I've got the perfect story for that. I just had a client come to me. Life happened. Bought their home 3 months ago. Can't afford the mortgage anymore. Came to me, hey, like, what can you do? And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, first off, you got no equity. Like, it's not like your home has appreciated anything in 3 months. Like, you're probably negative equity. They used a down payment assistance program. Like, the cards are just stacked against them, right? So the ultimate problem here is can't afford the mortgage, right? So now I'm like, listen, I there's like not much I can do as a real estate agent, right? But what I can do is if we can go find a buyer, like together as a team, option one, we go find a buyer. I'll just help you because like I never actually get to help people in bad situations. Like, so I will help you and we'll get you out of this mortgage payment. Figure it out. Or option two, I put my investor hat on and I was like, I can buy it as an investor property. I'm like, it's not that good of a deal for me, but like there's ways and stuff like that as an investor. I can purchase the property,
Options, yeah.
make it. Here's your options, right? Enter
Right.
other real estate agent. Other real estate agent comes in and says, don't listen to this guy. What he's offering is not a good idea. I want to list the home and charge 6% commission. Well, there's nothing I can do now. Second that listing contract was signed, I can't approach that seller. I can't say like, hey, you need to rethink this, even though I believe in my heart and my soul that what I was doing was a good thing and what that other agent was doing was bad. I can't do anything about it. It's because the competition's been taken away from me. I can't go to the board because the board's not going to listen to me. There's nothing I can do. That home gets listed. Guess what? Super high price, 6% commission, and it doesn't sell. 30 days on the market, it doesn't sell. If the problem is that guy couldn't afford the mortgage, now what? He's right back to square one. He's probably deeper in debt now, but there's nothing I can do about it because he signed a listing agreement with that guy. And when they pulled it off the market, the way they pulled it off the market, I still can't contact that guy and be like, hey, I still got this option for you and I can still help. There's nothing I can do. So the competition is needed. Competition is needed. And if you look at the commercial side of things, like, because we're getting ready to dive into, we're going to be expanding over to commercial in the next year or two. Put on another hat.
Congratulations.
It's competitive.
Yeah.
If you have a listing, I can go call your seller and be like, hey, seller, your listing agent hasn't done anything for you. Let me list it. Competitive. You know, it's you have to be on your toes. But if I sign a contract with you, I mean, ultimately it's up to that person to stay. You know, they got to stay in that contract, but it doesn't matter. It's an idea that gets implanted in somebody's head, and it drives people to have to be the best version of themselves, and that's what's needed now more than ever.
Nice. Now I would agree with that too. I would agree with that. The just last thing, man. 2008. The years before that, you know, there was a big thing with mortgage originators and predatory lending that shook up the entire mortgage industry in 2008. Now we're dealing with this lawsuit. We don't know, like we said, we don't necessarily know what the long-term effects are going to be, how it's going to necessarily shift the market. But those two things aside, is there anything else in the real estate industry you feel like needs to change for the better?
Education. I don't think 40 hours cuts it for a person to get licensed to buy it, to essentially sell somebody the biggest asset that they're ever going to buy in their life. I'm not saying college degrees. I don't believe in that crap. Go get a college degree if you want to be I know, hot take, right? Yeah, I just Gary V'd this. I'm so sorry.
Come on, man.
Sorry, dude. You don't need a college education to go become a real estate agent, right? But you need education. You need it.
Facts.
Texas is 120 hours. In the state of Michigan, it's 40 hours, which equates to, I think, 32.5 hours in a classroom setting. When you factor in breaks and lunches that they're allowed to give, I think it's 32.5 hours is what it takes. And then I get out, and guess what I can immediately do? Write up a purchase agreement and get you into the biggest asset that you ever had in your entire life. And you know what happens if I check a box wrong? Bad for you, right? So I think that's what's needed. I think there's change. There's too many. It's too easy. It's too easy to become one. I think it needs to be considered a career. I don't think there should be part-timers. It's another super hot take. I mean, we have part-timers here, but that's because it's allowed, right? Like, why is someone able to do this one deal a year and then I got to do the whole deal for them because they don't know what they're doing? And there needs to be constant testing. If you're a nurse, you're a lawyer, like we compare ourselves to these people all the time. They're constantly tested on their license. Why aren't we? All we got to do every 3 years, do some continuing education, go click the renew button, pay some money. Why?
Yeah, pay some money.
There's
There you go.
there's zero barrier to being the best version of yourself, and I don't like that. Now here, obviously, I have a little bit stricter requirements. You do have to be educated. You have to be smart. We have training platforms. We've got all that stuff. We've got the technology to make your life easier. We've got the brokerage documents to protect you, the consumer, and ourselves from getting duped by anyone else. But I mean, I'm one tiny fractional piece in this puzzle, and it's a big thing. So now, do I believe 2008 is ever going to happen again? Probably not. At least not in our lifetime.
No.
So I think that's neat. I think education is needed, and I think our industry would do good if we instilled a rule for a while. Again, hot take, that huge corporations need a limit on how many homes that they can purchase in a year.
I agree.
You've got corporations buying up hundreds of thousands of homes, all cash.
I agree. Yeah.
You got Zillow purchasing homes. Obviously, that their model flopped, but I mean that sucks for the average consumer that just wants a home. And it's not like your person that's buying a vacation condo in Florida. It's the single parents that are coming to you that finally saved up enough money, and now what? What's their barrier of entry into this is they got to pay an appraisal gap, they got to waive an inspection, they got to do that. Like, we need laws. We don't need ethics. We need laws. We need help combating this, and that's what's needed. Not more stupid stuff from NAR telling me when I can and cannot put a for sale sign in the ground. It's so stupid.
Well said.
At some point, I just need to be allowed to sell homes, and I feel like there's a barrier to that, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, man. And I want to thank you again, Shawn, for showing up here at the closing table to give your perspective, to put context behind this entire situation too. So thank you again, man. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please do so now, sir.
Yeah, man. So I'm licensed in Michigan and in Florida. You can reach me at 989-392-7719. I'm sure you guys can drop my contact info in there, so I'll go without saying it. And listen, just please, the person that you work, it's so stupid that I'm even saying this, the person that you hire and that you work with on your biggest financial investment is important. Interview people, talk to people the same way you would do you'd go through multiple attorneys, you'd ask your family, you'd ask your friends. Do the same thing when you're buying a home. I buy tons of Zillow stuff, and the amount of people that just come to me and buy homes through me, luckily, I'm really good at this. Humble brag. I'm really good at this. What if I wasn't, and you just worked with me because you clicked on an ad on Zillow? What if? Interview, talk to people, get referrals, ask questions. If you don't understand, ask questions. If they're not doing a good job, fire them. You can do these things. So just do that, man. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of us, just as many as are bad, and I know that they're bad, and I'm here. The best thing I can do at this point in my life is fight the fight from inside, and I try to do that every single day. So if you take away and you strip me of this, what fight is there anymore? I'm here on the inside to fight it for the consumer. So I think there's a lot of us out there, and that support going forward, I would love. So.
I like that, man. Fighting from the inside. We need that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you again, Shawn. We appreciate you. And for our audience watching, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and make sure you share the content. Other than that, we appreciate you for watching, and we'll see you next time.